Okay, so hi everyone. This is the first of the 2020 year Jakarta EE Update Call. Welcome everyone. We are recording this meeting and we will be making the recording available to everyone who is not able to join us today. So this is part of the welcoming from Tanja Obradovic, Jakarta EE Program Manager at Eclipse Foundation, and then welcome from Ivar.
Yeah, Ivar Grimstad. I'm the Jakarta EE Developer Advocate.
Karen.
And Karen McNaughton. I am the Marketing Manager for Jakarta EE at Eclipse Foundation. Hello.
So that's three of us from the Eclipse Foundation, but then we additionally today have members of the working group with us who will be presenting Jakarta EE 2021 program plan and budget. That's Will Lyons, and then program plan or the plan rather for the Jakarta EE 9.1 release with Kevin Sutter. So I guess, Will, are you here? Maybe
I
you
am. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear
Very
you and
good.
I can see you, and
You
it's
can
a
hear me and see me.
yeah, beautiful background.
I just
out
put
here.
that up. Yeah, it's a new day, or maybe that's sunset, I guess. But
Yes. So do you want to share your screen and take it over from here?
Yes, I will do that. Okay. Okay. How does that look? Does it look okay?
Looks great.
Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Will Lyons. I'm with Oracle. I chair the Jakarta EE Steering Committee, and we thought we would take some time today to present an update on the program plan for Jakarta EE for 2021. So just some background. The Eclipse Foundation has a concept of a working group. A working group is a defined structure within the Eclipse Foundation that provides for governance of a variety of different Eclipse projects at the Eclipse Foundation. And there is a working group that has been set up to manage Jakarta EE and to drive the evolution of the Jakarta EE technologies. Part of the definition of a standard Eclipse working group defines a concept of a steering committee, and we have a Jakarta EE working group steering committee, which defines and manages the strategy for the Jakarta EE working group. And there is a governance process which describes, what the membership of the Jakarta EE Working Group Steering Committee consists of. I happen to chair the steering committee, and I think we've got approximately 9 members. We meet weekly, we publish minutes, and address a variety of topics. The Eclipse Foundation itself also has a planning and budgeting process that prescribes coming to conclusion on budgets in the December timeframe for the coming year. So within the steering committee, we have gone through a planning and budgeting process for the Jakarta EE Working Group for 2021. We also have a process for reviewing progress against the plan on a quarterly basis. And so what I'm going to do today is to review the 2021 plan that we have come to share it with this group. So this presentation actually represents our plan. It was approved by the Jakarta EE Steering Committee at the beginning of December, and as a result of essentially evolving the prior year's plan, looking at things that we've achieved and things that we need to do better at. And it was an active topic of discussion for several weeks at the Jakarta EE Steering Committee. And the way this plan is structured is there are a number of strategic goals that we have identified. And then within this program plan document for each one of the strategic goals identified, we have further identified a number of specific activities or initiatives that we will undertake in support of the strategic goals enumerated here. So those goals are to deliver new releases of Jakarta EE in 2021, to simplify the release process, to advance implementation neutrality. What that means is to make it easier for compatible implementations to be delivered without favoring one particular implementation of Jakarta EE versus another. Another goal is to continue to drive the brand in the marketplace and awareness and adoption of the technologies. Another goal is to align Jakarta EE and microprofile. Perhaps this should be better phrased as participate with the membership and community of the microprofile working group in aligning the two efforts and the two technologies. Another goal is to enable the transition of the ecosystem to the Jakarta namespace. As many of you are probably aware, in Jakarta EE 9, we transitioned from the use of the Java X namespace and Java X package names to Jakarta, the Jakarta namespace and package names. And so in order to facilitate the adoption of that new namespace by the community, we've identified a number of activities to facilitate that transition. We think it's important to, in the interest of growing the number of contributors and committers to Jakarta EE projects, we want to put in place a program to specifically to grow them. We want to acquire new members of the working group, and the last topic I'll cover is the budget that we will and how the budget for the working group in the coming year and how it's allocated. So let's dig in. In terms of delivering new releases, many of you are probably already aware that we are working on a plan to deliver its, let's say, Jakarta EE 9.1, which will support JDK 11. There may be updates of individual specifications. So that's something that the spec committee is working on and managing now, and the overall program team is working on. We expect to have, well, Kevin will be talking about this in more detail, so I'll leave it at that. Obviously, we want to actually not only create the plans, but deliver the releases themselves. We hope to have a follow-on plan for follow-on releases after 9.1 is released. And we do specifically want to reserve time during the year to enable some process optimizations, and some ideas in this area are formally splitting out specification projects from the projects related to implementations of those projects, modernizing the TCKs to make them more usable and more efficient, etc. And generally, in the current TCK structure, there's several dependencies, built-in dependencies on Glassfish, and we'd like to reduce or eliminate those to the extent possible. I've got 20 minutes here, so I'm eyeing the clock. There's a number of pieces of technical work that we can undertake to simplify the process of actually doing new releases. So the Jakarta EE specification process, that's what JESP refers to. There's some automation we'd like to take to, for example, initiate a release review. We feel that we expect that in the coming year that there may be points in time during which there will be demand run TCK concurrently, and there may be additional infrastructure requirements to actually support the testing and the actual execution of the TCK, and we may need more resources there to support that. There may be additional infrastructure required to support testing both on Java 8 and Java 11. And as I mentioned earlier, we'd like to evolve the TCK in a number of ways, create standalone TCK so that all individual specifications can have their own TCK without dependency on an overall platform TCK. So there's a number of initiatives here to simplify the release process. In the area of advancing implementation neutrality, I would say the summary goal here is to remove explicit dependency. A real key goal is to remove explicit dependencies on the Glassfish implementation. And also there's a number of rules around which tests are optional that we'd like to clarify those in the interest of simplifying getting specifications through the test process. The Jakarta EE Working Group has a marketing committee, which is now meeting every other week. And the marketing committee is taking ownership of a number of the strategic goals identified by this steering committee. And on this particular slide, this goal of driving Jakarta EE brand awareness and adoption is the overall goal. And the marketing committee has identified more specific goals in the marketing area to deliver against that strategic goal. So things like delivering more end user case studies, showcasing users of Jakarta EE, encouraging individual organizations, jugs, to adopt a Jakarta EE specification and participate in it. Promoting the presence of the working group, Java user group meetings, and execute on a PR plan, etc. So these are some areas of work that the marketing committee will be focusing in the coming year, and there's a plan, there's a link provided here to the marketing committee plan. Again, another goal to grow and reward individuals who participate or contribute to specification projects. We're going to create a program to highlight those contributors based on the work that they have done, and also grow the community by a variety of evangelism activities. And so we're also evaluating other initiatives such as implementing Java Developer certification program, providing new online learning options in the interest of driving adoption of the technologies. I just thought I'd present some highlights from some recent results, just to indicate the kinds of things we're tracking to measure progress against some of the goals we're setting here. I'd like to highlight these pie charts in the middle here. And I'm actually going to have to move my Zoom menus out of the way so I can see it myself. If you look at commits to Jakarta EE specification projects in Q3, you can see that, I hope you can see the distribution of the committers from various organizations. And in Q3, Oracle was the leading contributor, followed by Red Hat and IBM. VMware was also a significant contributor, Tommy Tribe and Payara. Some of the major members of the working group, therefore, were contributing or making over 50% of the commitments to specification projects. Something you'll notice that happened in Q4 are a couple of things. One is that IBM actually replaced Oracle as the #1 committer to specification projects in Q4. That's a credit to Kevin Sutter and his team, but it's also pretty significant that in the history, let's say, of Java EE and Jakarta EE technologies, I believe this is the first quarter in which the majority of commits has come from a non-Oracle company, which is a great thing. So that's one thing I'd like to highlight. The other is that over 60% of the commits to these projects came from, entities or individuals other than IBM, Oracle, Payara, Red Hat, Tommy Tribe, VMware, etc. So I think that reflects a healthy level of contribution from the community at large and not just the vendors of the technologies. I'd also like to highlight, some great work we've done with our live stream events. We've done 5 during 2020. We did 5 events with over 2,600 registered attendees, 1,500 people attended live, over 900 watched the replay, and we've got a large number of views on YouTube as well. So this is an example of the type of work that the marketing committee, together with the staff of the Eclipse Foundation, has done to promote Jakarta EE during the past year, and work we will continue in the coming year. So I'd like to say thank you to Tanja and to Ivar and to Karen and other members of the Eclipse Foundation, specifically for the work you've done in this area. Okay, aligning Jakarta EE and microprofile. Some of you may have joined the CN4J Alliance mailing list. We've initiated this concept of a cloud native for Java alliance, which would essentially provide a forum for explicit collaboration between the Jakarta EE and microprofile working groups. There's a great deal of commonality across these working groups. They're both hosted at the Eclipse Foundation. They're both working on Java technologies. Microprofile consumes Jakarta EE technologies. They're focused on delivering, providing runtimes for enterprise applications. There's a lot of common membership across both of these groups. So there's some natural synergy, and we're just looking to do a better job of formalizing the way these groups can work together. In fact, the Jakarta EE Working Group has allocated some of its 2021 budget to the microprofile working group, and we're very much committed to helping these two working groups present a unified marketing message and resolve technical questions between the two of them. I've already mentioned on enabling transition to the Jakarta namespace. So to facilitate adoption of Jakarta E9. So we need a plan in this space to work with key members of the Jakarta EE ecosystem to provide support for migrating EE8 applications to EE9, to adopting the new APIs, and to simplifying that process. So we will be focused on that. I think I've talked about, the need we feel to grow the number of committers and contributors to Jakarta EE projects. and to put in place a program to visibly reward them. We also want to acquire new members of the working group. Members bring funding, and that helps us, implement, some of the goals of the program plan that have been identified. And also more members means more industry and company support for the activities we're undertaking. We've created, published our budget for 2021, and here's actually, I'm providing here a summary of the budget and comparing that with prior year budgets and prior actuals. So this takes the revenues we have from membership fees, some carry forward for from prior years, and that gives us our total budget for the coming year. And we show here how that budget is allocated across a variety of different efforts. All of these line items have been reviewed by the steering committee, and the steering committee has jointly approved these budgets. So that's what we will be working towards in the coming year. And I hope that's, we will be making this plan public, including the links to the budgets. There's been some interest from that discussed on community mailing lists. And that concludes my presentation. Are there any questions on this before we turn it over to the other speaker? Okay, well, thank you very much for listening. I hope that was useful.
Thank you, Will. Just to remind everyone, we made a setting that you're all by default on mute. So if you do have questions, you can either send it via chat or simply unmute yourself in order to for us to hear you. Okay, so moving along, Kevin, do you want to take over and talk about the 9 release, 9.1?
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay, so is it showing properly?
It
We're
is-
seeing the notes now.
Present
Yes.
your notes mode.
Okay. How about that one?
Works like a charm.
Beautiful.
Okay, great. Okay, so we're pretty active with trying to define the 9.1 release or update. Excuse me. And so Tanja had asked whether or not, I'd be willing to come on and explain where we're at. The one thing that you're going to find out is that for me to talk about the 9.1 release and have it last for 10 minutes, I think it's going to be kind of tough. So I did add in a couple of other information, but let's just get going and see how long it takes. So one thing that I've learned by doing all these Zoom meetings is that every once in a while we get new people on board. And even though I am very involved with Jakarta EE and Microprofile, there's still some, along the way that it's like, well, who was that person, or where, what's his background? So I'm now including this in my presentations just to give a little bit of background. But as you can see, I am employed by IBM, but I'm very active with the Eclipse Foundation and the various projects related to the Java frameworks. So before I talk about 9.1, just one chart just to talk about the EE9 release, and Will touched on this a little bit as well. So we completed this in the fourth quarter of 2020. The actual coding portion or the specification portion we got done in late November, and then we had the big live stream announcement in early December. And so this was a very good way to cap off a very difficult year for 2020, for many different reasons. And so this was very good. But one of the things, the reason I wanted to put this up first is we had to make a little reservation or restriction with Jakarta EE9. And while we were developing it, we determined that trying to support both Java SE 8 and Java SE 11, both from a TCK perspective and a compatible implementation perspective, was going to be very difficult if we wanted to keep it within the year 2020. So around June, we made the decision that, okay, we're only going to do Java SE 8, and Java SE 11 will come in a release very shortly after Jakarta EE 9 becomes available. And so that's the direction that we took, and that's what our goal is for Jakarta EE 9.1. The main goal, I would almost say the exclusive goal, but we haven't finalized it yet, but the main goal is to support Java SE 11. The way that we've been going about this to try to, make sure that we get community input, last year was about the same time that Jakarta EE 9 was completing. I put out a Google Doc that just said, hey, what kind of ideas do we have for 9.1? And at that time, I was really trying to leave it open to find out, is there more that needs to go in besides Java SE 11? And through that discussion on that Google Doc, which was open for everybody to put comments, and we had a couple of platform calls. And as we were working through that, we kind of determined that there was almost a consensus across the board that people said, no, let's limit 9.1 to just Java SE 11, and then get that done and out of the way so that we can focus on new innovation for Jakarta EE 10 or 9.2, depending on how we name it. But something beyond 9.1 is where the true innovation would happen. So let's just get this done. So then I ended up solidifying that idea document into something that's more of a format for a release plan. And that's this first bullet here. And this Google Doc is a release plan that we've reviewed it a couple of times. We're getting input. I'm at the point where I'm actually going to be creating this in an actual 9.1 release plan and take it through the release plan review process because we're just not getting any more input on it. And I'd like to just, our goal is to have this out in first quarter, which is down there at the bottom. And so in order to meet that goal, we're going to have to complete this release plan, say that this is our definition for 9.1 and take it forward. And so that's the idea behind this. We do know that we have some TCK hits for supporting multiple Java SE versions. There are some things that were dropped from Java SE 9, 10, or 11 that are no longer there. And the big example is like the orb. So the orb is no longer available in Java SE 11. So how are we going to respond to that? And so there may be some TCK hits. We may have a slight update to the platform specification. There is discussion about maybe updating the EJB spec related to this. But again, I would like to limit that to just the platform spec. So that's what I'm trying to drive for, but we're still taking, some input. One thing that a few specifications are requesting is they're saying, okay, but we're finding that we had some typos, like in our specification or the Java doc. So how can we go about doing that? And we are defining a service release. So that's the third digit. So, like it would be a 9.0.1 type of a service release for a specification. And so there would be no functional changes, but there may be some typos or reformatting or, headings or whatever to help clarify what the specification or Java doc meant, or if there was a mistake. And so that's the type of thing that we're entertaining, is to promote the idea of service releases instead of new minor releases. And again, we're shooting for first quarter. We're trying to keep it simple. We want to support Java SE 11 and any other new updates, innovative updates, breaking changes. We're going to want to do that beyond 9.1. So that's kind of the gist of 9.1. And just to fill my 10 minutes, the one thing I did want to highlight are a couple other projects that are very key to the support and promotion of Jakarta EE 9. Will mentioned this already, that there was a project that's called the Eclipse Transformer, and it's been used by several of the vendors that are creating compatible implementations. And the basic idea here is it helps to do the binary translation. So it modifies the jar files, class files, so that the old Java X namespace could be converted to the Jakarta namespace. And it was originally developed by some people at IBM. And through the discussion, we determined that, hey, maybe there's other projects that might like to use this. So we proposed it as an Eclipse project. And once we presented it and explained its usefulness, then one by one, each of the application servers said, yeah, that's a good idea. And they started incorporating it. Most of them, I don't know if all of them, most of them are using it during a build process. So then the building of their application server, it is doing the modification between Java X to Jakarta. And that's working very well. But the reason I'm bringing it up on this call is that another key use for it is applications and test suites. So if you have applications that are using the Java X namespace and you want to see how does it work with, you know, one of the new versions of a Jakarta EE 9 runtime, you could take your application, run it through the transformer to have it do all the binary modifications from Java X to Jakarta, and then maybe use something like Open Liberty where you could download it and actually run your application through an Open Liberty Jakarta EE 9 runtime. And so that might give you a good reading as to, okay, how much of an impact was this for me to move forward to Jakarta EE 9? And then related to that would be any test suites that you might have with those applications. So something to be aware of, that this project is out there and it might be something that would be worthwhile. And the other project that I wanted to highlight is we are doing a language server for Jakarta EE. And for those of you that may not be familiar with this, what it does, it provides a common implementation for supporting the Jakarta EE APIs. And it's specifically helpful for like IDEs. So IDEs, they have to support, you know, they've got Java X, they got Jakarta, they've got microprofile, they have all these different packages that they need to support in order to have, you know, helpful hints, you know, completions, automatic completions, you know, error conditions, whatever that they're doing while you are writing your code in the IDE. Well, what the language server does is that it isolates those changes to a particular module that then could get plugged into any of the IDEs that support a language server processor. And so that's what we're doing out here with this Eclipse project, the LSP for Jakarta. It's similar to the one that was created for LSP for microprofile. So the idea is to create this language server to support the Jakarta EE programming model. Now this started as an open source project with Canadian universities. And it's something that IBM was involved with, and we tried to get this going last fall, the fall of 2020. And we got some very good students that came in and helped us establish the foundation for this language server. And we got 4 of the specifications configured and defined and coded, and they're up and running. And the project was so well received that the university program ended up renewing us for the winter or spring. I don't know how they do their semesters, but we have a new project running right now. And so we've got a new batch of students coming in, and they're going to be helping with advancing all of those projects so that we don't have just 4, you know, maybe we'll grow it to 20 or 30 more of the specifications supported by this language server. And what's kind of nice is that this is an open source project. It's based in Eclipse. And so anybody listening to this call could also go out and start participating in this project. It's not just limited to the Canadian students. We're using it as a vehicle, but anybody can participate on it. And then I just kind of, my last two charts just have, you know, some links for getting more involved. I did mention the Jakarta EE 9.1. We are trying to limit the content of that, but Jakarta EE 10 is where the new innovation is going to be coming. And I know Reza Rahman has been soliciting input with trying to define the next release of Jakarta EE. And so if you have an interest in that, you know, you could please participate on that Google Doc. We have several mailing lists. We have a Jakarta EE community. The platform, that's the one that Ivar and I, we drive that, trying to get, you know, input for the platform. And if you want to dive into just, you know, particular technology, so you don't want to look at the big picture of the whole platform, maybe you just have an interest in JPA or EJBs or servlets, then you could go out and take a look at the complete list of mailing, the mailing lists that are associated with Jakarta EE. And there may be something out there that you have an interest in. And this too just has a few other links for the other mailing lists, the specification operations on how to get involved with the specification project. And then the one thing down here at the bottom, we do have a weekly call to talk about platform items. So this is where we have been discussing the 9.1 plan, and where we will be discussing the 10 plan, the Jakarta EE 10. And so every week we have one of these calls. Now I do have the exception down there. The first Tuesday of every month is reserved for the PMC call. So it's basically, you know, 3 out of 4 or 4 out of 5 Tuesdays of each month, where you can actually have a conversation with someone and not just through a mailing list. So that's what I had. Any questions?
While people are coming up with questions, thank you, Kevin. And just to point out that we did highlight the work of the students regarding the language server in one of our tech talks. And we're certainly looking forward to do it again once we have something to share with the wider community.
Yeah, maybe next time we'll give you more notice than just 2 days.
I'm sure we will. Now that we learned our lesson, we will. Okay, so going forward, I guess let me just then turn over to the update from the Eclipse Foundation. Just a brief update on what's going on and what is coming up to keep you informed and hopefully inspired to jump in and help us out. So we'll talk about the events that are planned in the future. We'll talk about virtual tour and Studio Jakarta EE. We're looking forward to new contributors and committers, and then our standard slide that is having all the pointers, various ways in which you can connect with us. So let me just start first, and then I will switch over and share the presenting with Ivar and Karen. So in terms of the tech talks, this is a proven, well, we're starting this, probably is the 3rd year that we're starting this, but proven a vehicle for sharing the technical information about this or related technology. So this week we had that one tech talk, and we're having a couple of more planned in February. You can see them listed here. They're always listed on the community calendar, and you can watch the replays on the YouTube list. If there is anyone out there that is interested on presenting their talk on Jakarta Tech Talk, here is the sign up form. Do let us know, and we will be more than happy to have you. The topics that we're covering is relevant to cloud native. It is not necessarily Jakarta EE related. but we're always happy to hear about new projects related to Jakarta EE as well. We also are continuing with our live stream conferences, and we're currently working on Jakarta One live stream Russian edition that is scheduled for March 31st. We are going to open a call for paper soon, so all the Russian-speaking Java enterprise developers, please jump in, let us know, and be involved in this event, whether you're participating or seek for some other level of involvement, just let us know. We also have interest from Jakarta live stream in Turkish. This is actually, I think there is a mistake here that I can correct online. I think it's going to be August 21st. And we will be working towards that in the upcoming months. Some of the conferences where you can hear tons of Jakarta EE and or microprofile related talks. Please sign up. Let us know if there is anything else that we should keep our eye on. And on Jakarta.ee website, if there are any events that are related to Jakarta EE that you want to highlight, you can always let us know, because at the end of at the bottom of the website, you can submit the events or news relevant to Jakarta EE. Okay, Ivar, I talked enough. Maybe you should take it over.
Yeah, I'll take it over from here. And if you can press the present button, so
right.
you get the
Full
beautiful
view.
graphics I've created. I'm pretty proud of it.
Yeah, you should be.
Yeah, yeah. So we started last year doing a Jakarta EE virtual tour, and we visited 5 different jugs in October and November. And we continued this tour this year. And so far we've been in Silesia Jug in Poland and Jug Darmstadt in Germany. And this week we were in Barcelona and had a talk there. And then the next talk we are having scheduled is Chicago Jug in February. And we have room for more. So anyone listening into this this session later, if you're interested in having us visit your jug virtually, we all will be happy to come, and it's just to ping us on any media out there, whether it's Twitter or LinkedIn or email, or yeah, you can even send a letter in the post if you believe in the post office. So we listen on all channels. So just reach out and we will come there.
The catch is this year it's virtual, but once things open up, it will be in person tour.
Yeah, next year we're
by
coming.
the boat.
Yeah. Okay, so the next slide is I'm also doing I think the cadence there will be sort of monthly. I did one in December where I had Dalia from JetBrains demonstrating the Jakarta EE support in IntelliJ IDEA. And it's been very well received, has almost 300 views so far. And you can find it on the Studio Jakarta EE YouTube channel. And next week, I have Emily from IBM, and she will talk about microprofile 4.0, and we will live stream it on YouTube. And you can see the date there. It's at 6 p.m. in Europe, 12 in Eastern time, and 9 a.m. Pacific. So if you're interested, tune into YouTube. The link is down there, and you can see Emily demonstrate microprofile 4.0.
Okay, and let me just quickly go over this one. So I do want to point out that we need more hands on deck. So we need contributors, and we want you to get involved. So anyone out there, I just do want to stress out that because there was some level of confusion earlier that there is some special permissions, some special requirements in order to get involved in any of the Eclipse Foundation, or more specifically Jakarta EE related projects. The only thing that is pretty standard in open source is that is required in terms of the paperwork is Eclipse contributor agreement. It is completely free, and this you will see community is very welcoming, and we're looking forward to have you on board. As the time progresses and as the project team gets familiar with you and your work, you will become a committer on the project, and the paperwork and additional steps that need to be done for that will be you will be guided by the Eclipse Foundation. So nothing to worry about there. Hey, Karen, do you want to cover this one? Why would anyone be actually wanting to be involved in Jakarta EE?
Yeah, and I think, sometimes that question does get raised, and we are obviously looking to expand the community. So, we just kind of gathered up kind of the top reasons here that we typically hear from our contributors as well as to why. And the bottom line is, as you kind of indicated, Tanja, we need more contributors in our community just to grow the engagement, the contributions, and kind of the future success. And of course, in marketing, that's what we're always focused on, how to increase engagement, et cetera. So I think, not to read out all the bullets here, but I think, obviously these are just kind of some of the top thoughts around it. Mostly just increasing kind of the contributions, all of that good stuff. So I think we can probably continue on there.
Okay,
to the next, the next slide. So all of these are linked within here, and I think these have all probably been shared before in decks, and obviously, we do our newsletter sort of every month or bi-monthly. So we encourage people to always join the mailing list. It does grow every month. Every time we do a new mail out, we do see some growth, but we're always looking for continuing that as well. So upcoming events, community news, there's links to GitHub for pull requests and issues. There's always lots of conversations and engagement in both those areas. Blog posts, virtual meetups, the links to the Jakarta Tech Talks, and then of course all of our social channels. So if you're not yet following us, engaged with us on YouTube, etc., Facebook, LinkedIn, we're everywhere. So if you are active in the social community, by all means, follow us, tag us, use our hashtags, and we always look to republish content that our members and contributors are putting out as well. We do have a dedicated social media person for Jakarta, so that's a daily basis. We are always active there. So,
and if you are using Jakarta E9, or you converted your application into your name into Jakarta namespace, do let us know, because we would like to celebrate that as well. There are many applications out there, and we're looking forward and products and tools and platforms. If you are using the Jakarta namespace, do let us know. We would like to celebrate that.
Yep, and we just have the codes here. You can scan the links, etc. So again, these are just, we're trying to make it easy for you to subscribe and get engaged with us here, and also on our YouTube as well. So if you haven't already, do join us.
Thank you so much, Karen. And that is everything that we have prepared for today. I would actually love to welcome some questions and give, I have something in the chat here. Oh, very nice graphics. I guess, thank you, Will. Okay, so questions, comments. Well, if there are no questions or comments at this point, you always know how to reach us. You can always give us suggestions how we can improve. We keep our community calendar up to date. So if you have, any events that are related and we are organizing for Jakarta EE, we will publish there. So please stay in the loop and be in touch. Anyone else to do some closing? Okay. Then that's it. Thank you very much, and we'll stay in touch.
Thanks, Tanya and Ivar.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.